Best-selling author Karen Abbott is tackling a man who was the real-life inspiration for F. Scott Fitzgerald's Jay Gatsby. Her new book is called The Ghost of Eden Park, The Bootleg King, The Women Who Pursued Him, and the Murder That Shocked Jazz-Age America. And Karen joins us now. That's a great title for the book. The Bootleg King is George Remus,
yes,
who is actually legendary in Cincinnati history, but I guess because it's been so long ago that a lot of people are not aware who he is. How did you become aware of George Remus?
Well, you know, I'm a historian. I usually get my ideas in archives and libraries, but this one I got from the HBO show Boardwalk Empire.
Oh,
yes.
of all places.
Of all places, yeah. George Remus was a minor character on there, but he stole every scene he was in. He was fascinating, he was brilliant, and he spoke of himself in the third person.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, is this guy real? And indeed, he was real and more interesting than any portrayal that he got on Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah, and now give us a little background as to who George Remus was. They call it the Bootleg King because, I mean, he was.
He absolutely was. George Remus was a German immigrant who settled first in Chicago, became a pharmacist, a lawyer, and then realized when Prohibition dawned that he had a chance to use his background in law and pharmacy to make serious money. Yeah. And within a year of becoming a bootlegger, he owned 35% of all the liquor in the United States.
35%.
35%. And he had a big mansion in Price Hill, which was the wealthiest neighborhood at the time, and he sort of ruled the roost. He was the guy to go to.
Now, you talk about the women in his lives. I think he was married, what, 3 times?
Twice. Oh, actually, he was married 3 times. The one is after the main events in the book.
Right,
yeah.
Right. But talk about the women that you talk about in the book, because one was supportive of him, the other not so much.
Yeah. Well, his first wife, he met his second wife while he was still married to his first. Yeah. Imogene Holmes was his second wife. They were both going through a divorce when they met. And Imogene, I think, saw a chance to sort of hitch her wagon to this really smart guy who was poised to make millions as a bootlegger. She actually confided to a friend that she was going to roll Remus for his role. Okay. And she ends up falling in love with the Prohibition agent who put Remus in jail. So it sparks this love triangle that actually reaches the highest level of government and, you know, could only end in murder.
Right. And it did.
And it did, yes.
It did. But there was also a prosecutor who was pursuing him doggedly at the time, too.
Yes, Mabel Walker Willenbrandt, who, by the way, was also in Boardwalk Empire. She was a character named Esther Randolph. And she was also remarkable. She was only 32 years old when Warren Harding appointed her to be the Assistant Attorney General of the United States, 5 years out of law school, and had never prosecuted a single case in her life. And suddenly she was in charge of all bootlegging prosecutions, and she went right after Remus.
Now, you're obviously in charge of the facts in this particular story, but it was more than a century ago that this happened. How did you do your research in order to flesh out this character?
Well, you know, in nonfiction, you can't make anything up. All the dialogue, all the events, everything has to come from the historical record. And I was lucky to find a transcript in the Yale University Law Library that was 5,500 pages. And it became the spine of the book, and it had, you know, dialogue and people saying what they thought at the time, and great descriptions of Remus and Remus's own words, and it was sort of helped it read more like a novel than nonfiction.
His life read like a novel.
Yes,
Could
it
you
did.
believe? I mean, when you read it, you said this is gold.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's so rare that you get the dead people usually don't do what you want them to do. Yeah. You know, George Remus and everybody in the book were actually historical people who did exactly what I wanted them to do. So it was a lot of fun.
Well, Karen Abbott, it sounds like a fascinating read. And once again, the title is The Ghost of Eden Park, The Bootleg King, The Women Who Pursued Him, and the Murder That Shocked Jazz-Age America. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me.